dude, I had that syndrome with Breath of the Wild for a little while after I was playing that because I wanted to climb on every single cliff in every game, and I couldn't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's a brain virus.
Mm-hmm.
You idiot! Why are you jumping?
Are we live?
Oh, hey, how's it going, everybody?
Where's the cue?
I gave you the cue. Did you not hear
He
anything
was
I
doing
said?
this for a while.
I
You guys
said,
just
here we
kept
go.
talking.
We're playing the song, and so that's like my go for
I
you.
haven't even tweeted yet. All right, hold on. This is a great episode. Live with episode 122. Welcome everybody to Roundtable Live for April 13th, 2018. I'm BaerTaffy, joined by Northern Lion, Rockley Smile, Mathis Games. It's good to see you guys again. Hello, hi.
Hello.
Hello.
How's it going?
Nice.
Professionalism.
Yes. 122 episodes in. We've got it down. I love having the squad back together, though. It feels like a rarity these days to have the boys back in town all at the same time, but it's happening.
Stop
this
going
week.
places all damn
Well, I'm
time.
going to be gone next week is the thing. That's sort of why I'm saying this. I'm preemptively getting that
Okay,
out
so
of
you're
the way.
gone next week, and
I'm
then
done next week.
in
Yeah,
3
who's-
weeks I'm
who wants it
gone,
next?
and then 2 weeks after that trip I'll be gone again. I'm dead
Wow.
serious.
You definitely leave the most, man. Like you don't need to be at all these
Listen,
places.
if they're
It's too many.
listen, not
to
for
go.
nothing, but if they're like, hey, we'll pay for you to go, I'm like, let's do it.
Okay, sure, yeah, but like, are they all?
A lot of them?
A lot of them, but not all of them.
Not
right?
all of them, but a lot of them.
Some of them you're going to, and I'm like, you could probably cut, snip a few of them,
It's
right?
one of these MomoCon,
No MomoCon this year.
Dragon Con.
No MomoCon
You
this
gonna
year.
get a Nomocon no
No
more?
MomoCon.
Oh, this has been a fun start. Mathis was also at PAX East just recently. You want to talk about that for a few minutes?
It was good.
It was yeah.
And that
Now-
concludes our PAX East discussion.
PAX East. So PAX East is like 15 minutes away from me, so it's not like I flew anywhere to go to PAX East. But PAX East is good.
Okay.
It's like I don't know. What
Really
can you say about
good
PAX at this point that like
That's sort of
hasn't
where I'm at.
been said about everything?
Yeah.
I don't know. There wasn't like the AAA games that were there are things that are all old, and
Yeah.
they don't really do anything that's like
No.
about to come out. Really,
Not true. The new Soul Calibur was there.
that's true. I did see a Soul Calibur sign somewhere, and I just didn't care enough to go play it because I'm not a fighting game guy. What
It
else
has
was going on?
Geralt in it, so I thought everybody would be
Yeah,
really excited.
that's true.
Geralt.
It's Geralt. It's
Geralt.
Pardon me,
Geralt.
sir.
Excuse me.
I'd be ripped to shreds for that if I said that in a VO, man. The comments would never let me hear the end of it. Who's this
Well,
guy? He
you
doesn't
know,
even know what the
Fake
Witcher
gamer
is.
boy.
Fake.
Geralt.
I'll still get that too. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah, other than that, I didn't really like play anything that wasn't already like available. That game that we saw like 2 years ago was still there. That Monsters NBA Jam game. I can't remember.
Dunk
the name of
Lords.
it. Dunk Lords was there. Yeah,
That was
still there.
last year, not 2
Felt
years
it
ago.
felt like 2 years ago.
That's the game by Andy Hole, co-developer of Spelunky.
Correct. Yes.
And Mother
Yeah, that
Gunship was there, and Mother Gunship's still really good, and I'm excited for it.
Mhm.
Other than that,
Did you talk to the Chasm Boys this year?
You check in with them.
no. Below was there still.
Yeah.
They're still like working on the game, I guess.
I think at this point we should just invite them on just to have like an annual check-in. Like,
It's like, hey.
No, it's coming out in early summer. They said they just don't have an exact date, but they're at the final phases of wrapping up development
Okay.
now.
Good.
So this is very likely the last PAX East they could have been at. I just don't know if they were there.
Genuinely good news.
Unless they do the thing that a lot of devs do, and once their long-awaited game comes out, they just inexplicably go to every PAX for like the next 3 years. And
That's
then-
like Shovel
With
Knight.
that game.
yeah.
Yeah. Shovel Knight is apparently the devs are working on something, but nobody knows what. That's all they've ever said when you ask them. So like, what's your next game? They're like, oh, we're working on something.
If it was Shovel Knight 2 with the same assets, I would be pretty okay with that,
I
actually.
mean, yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
But
Or
what
Or-
am I looking for from that team, really? Besides more Shovel Knight, I don't know what I would trust them with at this point. Like they didn't do anything before Shovel Knight, I don't think, right?
I mean, as a team, I don't think so. I don't know if they ever where
'Cause I'm
they
pretty
came
sure that
from.
was a Kickstarted title too, if I remember.
Yeah, I
correctly.
think you're
Yes.
They've gotten their start, and it's been a fast start. But I would be curious to see what direction they want to go.
Yeah, I mean, their next DLC's hitting soon, which is the King Knight DLC.
Still doing more DLC. It's been how many years now? 2?
It's a huge game.
Two.
Man. Like,
Yeah, it's what they spent longer than 2.
Support a game
what's
like
the
that.
matter with them?
I,
I think it's been like it came out in like 2013 or 2014.
But like the cool thing about all the DLCs is like it's basically a brand new game.
Yeah,
Like
2014.
all the levels are
The
different.
DLC is really impressive. It really is.
Yeah,
It's really good. It's
Yeah.
a great game.
I kind of hope that they do the whole, like they'll like progress through the generations of gaming over time. I don't think they will, but it would be cool to see like a Genesis or SNES version of like maybe Shovel Knight or whatever.
Evo Land version.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
an Evo Land, but stretched out across an entire series. Yeah, that would certainly be interesting. Wouldn't
But
it?
I would love to see them change genres as well, not the same platformer throughout the whole thing.
Yeah,
Unless
yeah.
the N60, if they ever do that and they get N64, it becomes a collectathon, I'm down. Let's go.
Right on.
I wasn't implying, by the way, that they're bad for making DLC. I was just impressed that they're still supporting the game this long. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
well,
announced 2 days ago that they sold over 2 million copies of Shovel
Right.
Knight. So they're at like just you can support a game for a long time, I imagine, on 2 million copies when it's Shovel Knight.
Are they on mobile? They're not on mobile, right?
I don't think so.
That would maybe be a possibility for them too, but it's certainly just a unique circumstance too. I mean, I think that's more of the reason why, Nick, you're so surprised by it, because indies don't typically get this sort of support for this
For
long,
sure,
especially not like a single player indie title. That's
And
a
a
very unique
Platformer on top
right,
of it.
yeah. So it's a little abnormal for sure.
You know, Vermintide 2 just hit 1 million sales already.
So did A
That's
Way Out, actually, which
crazy.
was also shocking. Like game sales, I think the tide is just in general rising, which is fantastic. I think that 1 million unit threshold is maybe becoming even a little easier for folks to hit, which is pretty great. That's only good for the industry if people are buying more games. Hell yeah, let's go. So anyway, yeah, we had a bit of a weird start there. I guess we do have a bit of a docket for today's show. That was the PAX check-in, a few minutes there of what was it? It was good. Okay, cool.
It was
right on.
great. It was a good PAX.
We're gonna talk about the issues with SteamSpy that happened this week. SteamSpy, if you're unfamiliar, was a service that a lot of players and developers alike used to figure out information about Steam, about games, the info that was publicly available anyway, and that has changed. We'll be talking about the implications of what has happened there. Then a couple of games that we want to talk about this week, a couple of pretty good ones actually. Minit, the little gem that we, I believe all 4 of us actually played this, didn't we? So that's going to be a great conversation. Fantastic. That is a new, Devolver did publish that. That's right. Yeah, it's a new Devolver published joint developed by JW, Kitty, Jukio, and Dom it's the developer listing on Steam.
Catchy name.
Yeah,
Very good.
It's going to stick. And then Jalopy was another indie that came out within the last month or so. And I thought it was in early access, but I guess
It
not.
was. It just came out of early access.
Just did. Okay, so that's a recent thing that happened.
Yeah.
So, cool. So we'll talk about Jalopy as well on the show today, and then just sort of go over what we've been playing the last couple of weeks as well. Sadly, it's been a bit slow goings these days. Still not a lot of news happening in the industry. At least not a lot of stuff that we really feel the need to discuss or contribute our viewpoints on. So. For now, what's up? No, you want to? Oh, yeah, and there was one.
I have
thing-
to go ham on this because so there's a reason I'm like really excited to talk about this because when I played this game, okay, we're gonna go into spoilers for Heavy Rain for those who are ready. Okay, so when I finished that game, it was when it was launched and people were loving that game. When I put that controller down, I hated it. I hated every last second of it because much like every David Cage game, the ending.
There he goes.
The ending was complete nonsense and ruined. It was stupid. And I want to know if you feel the same way, because when I walked away back many, many years ago from that game, and they were like, oh, by the way, Scott's the killer. I'm like, you can't go the whole game and make me think 9 other people are the killer and do everything in your power to tell me that Scott isn't the killer, just to be like, hey, Scott's the killer, and be like, we fooled you.
Can you yell it a few more times to make sure Nick hears me?
Like I'm sorry, Nick, if you hear me. But like it was so infuriating because the whole game does everything they can to be like, he's not the killer, man. He's not the killer. But then they do it just to be like subvert your expectations, I guess. Like I don't understand the point, but it ruined the game for me because they were trying to make you believe like 4 or 5 other people were the killer. And in the end, they leave so many plot holes. Like, why was Ethan blacking out? Well, I mean, who fucking knows? Why did he wake up with origami on him? Who fucking knows? Ryan, what did you think? Because am I alone in this?
No, like the plot is extremely bad in the end because essentially it does the one thing like you're not supposed to do in a game that has mystery or like a twist in it, which is just lie at the end. And it's like having a twist just for the purpose of having a twist.
Yeah,
and people in chat pointed this out, like you can hear your character's thoughts.
Yes.
100% of the time. So when you're at the end of the game, you're like, well, why was I playing as Scott Shelby for a third of the game when he's searching for the origami killer despite being able to hear his own internal monologue? It just doesn't make sense.
And his internal monologue is like,
surprise, I'm the origami killer.
Because his inner monologue is always like, you know, trying to do the right thing and looking for, like you said, looking for the killer and all this other stuff. And then at the end, like, we got you. We just lied.
Yeah, it's just like it's a narrative betrayal. Like the thing that really it just makes you go like, huh? When you you think about it for like more than a quarter of a second, because you're like, there's a scene in which he's in like a typewriter store with this old guy, and he's trying to cross-reference like the people that have bought this typewriter from him because the origami killer had used the same typewriter to type a letter to somebody. And then the guy goes into the back room, the store owner goes into a back room, and then he just is dead. But the whole time you're watching yourself just walking around being like, I wonder what happened to this guy. And then he walks back into the back room and he's dead. But you watched him the whole time.
It doesn't make any sense.
At the end, they show you a flashback where it's like he murdered him. And you're like, no.
I was there.
I watched it. I was there.
Don't you remember? There were 4 frames of black screen during that moment where you don't remember what happened.
It's just like they just lie to you. Like it's a really bad way for them to wrap up the story in that game. Is for that it would have made way more sense, even if it would have been predictable, if Ethan was the origami killer because of the blackouts and the origami that he wakes up with. And it's, I guess, a little bit more engaging that he's like trying to save his son from himself.
Yeah, that would have been so cool. Like if the storyline was like he has like a split personality from the trauma of losing his kids, and like he's fighting himself. Like you said, he's fighting himself to try and save his own kid. That would have been way cooler. But no, they're just like, he blacks out because
apparently that's like a cut plot in the game. They're supposed to be like, the origami killer and Ethan were supposed to be like psychically linked, and then there was going to be a connection, but it got cut for whatever reason. So like, it just makes the twist seem super artificial.
The whole fucking cyberpunk glasses thing sort of just
Nam and Jaden.
It's a little weird. I actually think the game itself is like pretty bad but very enjoyable.
Yeah, I can see that.
I really like FMV style QTE fest. Like that for whatever reason, that's where I'm at. People are like, hey, do you want to play this RPG? It's really good. I'm like, get that out of my face. Give me like the new
I have to do while I'm playing this
It's
game.
not even like that. It's just like you know, it's like watching a story instead of, I don't know. I would rather play Heavy Rain again than finish Minit. even though I think Minit is pretty good, I'm just like I vibe more with the FMV style stuff. I vibe more with like the decently made trash, I guess.
So you're playing Nick, you can
I was gonna say, can we
I'm done with the spoilers. I'm done with the spoilers. I was gonna say, we're done with the spoilers, but you're playing Beyond Two Souls now, right?
Yeah, correct.
That game is just bad start to finish, unfortunately.
It's very, very ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it.
Whoa.
It's worse than Heavy Rain in the sense that it adds in what I would describe as a hidden object game mechanic that is really annoying. Like instead of just things playing out and you having QTEs, it's like play as the spirit and find the things you can interact with, and then like take the sticks and go like this over and over. But like it's more ridiculous and thus more entertaining, I think, than Heavy Rain.
I can see, and I can imagine playing it with like a crowd of people jeering it is also great.
Yeah, it's like it's got a Mystery Science Theater 3000 thing going on with it. All right, cool. I'm excited for Detroit, dude.
I'm gonna play it, unfortunately.
Looks good.
Sorry, I couldn't contribute to the Heavy Rain discussion. I only played the first hour, and I do intend to play it through one day. I was just always told it was bullshit, so I didn't. I thought it would be entertaining, at least, to see why it's so shitty.
That sort of seems like Ryan's takeaway from it, to be honest, is that you might still be worth it for that very reason.
It's enjoyable.
I do hate QTEs though when they're done repetitively, and that's like all that game is.
Dude, Beyond has even worse QTEs. Like at least the QTEs in Heavy Rain are like they have a prompt on the screen of what you're supposed to do. In Beyond Two Souls, you're supposed to look at the action and like infer what your QTE response would be. So this is so like minor, and I know it's not like a half-hour Beyond Two Souls discussion. It's so hard to unlearn like the control mechanics that you've learned for 20 years when your character on screen is doing like a swipe from right to left, and you're like, well, obviously I moved the right analog stick to the left because it's like a hook. That's the way the motion is going. It's like, nah, you're supposed to push it to the right because her hands are in the right side of the frame. And okay, fair enough.
Oh, it's like a stage left thing, like they reverse the controls because you're seeing it from the other perspective.
Nah, it's wherever the action is happening on the screen. Push your analog stick in that direction, more or less.
Sounds bad.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Correct.
All right. Let's talk about SteamSpy. So, a couple days ago, Steam's privacy settings were updated, and that is probably the reason why you and your friends weren't able to get into each other's parties while you were playing on Steam the last couple of days, because you didn't realize you were in the game when you were. It's done a few things. Apparently, you can hide the games now that you've purchased or wish-listed, along with any achievements and playtime you have associated with them. So a little bit more control, I suppose, over the privacy settings in your Steam profile. However, that had some maybe unexpected, maybe planned consequences. I don't know. It's certainly something that we're going to be discussing, whether or not Valve and Steam were aware of this impact. But as a result of this change, the service SteamSpy is no longer going to be able to operate. There's been a couple of articles about this. I'm going to be referencing at least an article by Eurogamer, which is actually an interview with the creator of SteamSpy, Sergey Galyonkin, who is the director of publishing strategy at Epic Games. So there you go. If you ever wondered who that was that ran the website, it's that guy. And of course, he's going to be just fine. If you're concerned about that, it's not his lone source of income running this. In fact, it was always a side project, as you can probably infer. Working at Epic Games right now, he's probably doing pretty good. They got a little game called Fortnite that's doing okay for them. So not a concern there. But he even makes a joke like that later on in the interview. Like, yeah, I've got my hands full. I'm doing fine. So, yeah. The big takeaway here, of course, though, is the fact that SteamSpy is not going to be able to operate anymore unless Steam, for some inexplicable reason, reverses this decision, which is almost certainly not going to happen.
Right.
SteamSpy effectively then is no more and will simply just be an archive of data that they have collected up to this point, and no longer will be tracking data about Steam users and games for the foreseeable future. So this is very impactful for the industry, but not necessarily that impactful for like just the regular gamer. So this might be a little bit, Ryan, you like to use the term inside baseball. I think this is maybe a little bit too inside baseball for some people, but it's very interesting to us, especially because it's a resource that we use pretty frequently. Even discussing games on this show, we'll often pull up SteamSpy and just look into it and see how many sales, how many units, or how many players are on right now, there's other services for that still. But SteamSpy was just is a great resource for a whole bunch of different things for a lot of different people. And now it's gone. It's very interesting. So rip, I guess, first of all, rip to SteamSpy. It was a good run.
Yeah.
But he said in the article that he was pursuing in case there might be other options of ways to approach this, but that if he found ways, they might be very inaccurate, so they might not be worth bothering with. So there is a small chance there's still a way that this can pull it through, but yeah, it seemed like he was pretty sure it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. I think like basically it means that we can no longer like the reason that some people complain about SteamSpy is basically because of what we do. Like the estimates are somewhat accurate, but sometimes wildly inaccurate. And we go, well, like, look at this. This game sold 4 million copies on Steam. They must be killing it. But who knows? Like maybe 3.5 million of those or 3.9 million of those are from like a free weekend. I always heard or saw developers on Twitter that were like, people keep drawing ignorant assumptions from SteamSpy. So we have heard on the flip side that it's good for like course level market research for indie developers. And that kind of stuff is really expensive to get if you don't get it from a free source like SteamSpy. So I think that, you know, again, for us, it really doesn't, it just takes like another 10 minutes out of our show on a weekly basis, because we can't go, oh, this sold X copies, and then talk about how ridiculous that is or how amazing that is. But I don't know. I kind of think that with the conversations that people are having about privacy and control over your own data, this is probably a positive thing, even if it does come with some negatives related to SteamSpy. And I mean, on like an inside baseball track, I'm sure Valve is like, hey, we don't have to like update our public API for free just to make sure that this service works properly. Instead, now it's all internal, and they never really had like an obligation to do it to begin with. So,
well, regarding the legal element too, it's Sergey sort of has that speculation as well. He says for a moment he was thinking that it was related to the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation laws, which went live in Europe or go live in Europe in May. And a lot of companies, Facebook included, and that's been the big one that's been on display over the last couple of weeks, are having to make a lot of adjustments in order to comply with these new changes. So it's certainly likely that Steam would be doing so as well, although there's still room to speculate that they also may have been aware of SteamSpy and aware of like you said, Ryan, the fact that there have been a lot of developers sort of causing a stink about the fact that these numbers are not necessarily representative, nor are they accurate in most circumstances. And I guess like I keep thinking about it, like how big of an impact does it make for us not to have this information anymore? Is it like, I think there's got to be, well, no, I guess there's not really a different resource for this exactly.
No.
Like I'm trying to think who would be the next go-to for it, or where
Steam Charts is like,
Steam Charts, I guess.
It's okay, but I don't even know. I haven't heard people talk about whether or not Steam Charts is affected. I assume like concurrent players are still, that's publicly available data, but I'm not sure.
My understanding of it was that the way that SteamSpy worked was that it basically just crawled all of the users that ever had a game in their library, aggregated that data, and then published it. So the reason that it doesn't work now is because that information is now privatized. And I thought it was interesting in the article, he said that the libraries are private, but the sensitive data still isn't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was an interesting
That
part.
was why I was like, is this a political thing for them? Like, why are they doing that way? Because that's actually the information that would be important to hide, and it isn't being.
Cynical me is like, it's the AAA companies that want this shit private, the numbers
Yeah,
private, so they can
makes
lie
sense.
to us about how much they're actually selling. You know, that's like as cynical as I can get, but it's the only thing that in my mind, I'm like, well, who benefits the most? AAA publishers do.
Well, why would Valve do it too? Is the other thing, and that's like one of the reasons is AAA influence. But that's I think we're getting very much into speculation.
Well, yeah, we're getting into like tinfoil hat territory at that point.
Yeah, and then like, but really, I'm still just trying to consider like, what would they do this for? Like, what would be the motivation behind it? I think it's got to be political then, given the landscape of things right now. Like, I think they're maybe just getting out ahead of this giant shitstorm of Steam doesn't care about your privacy. But then again, you got to consider like, okay, so if they're doing that, why are they not hiding the more personal info, like your real name and your Twitter handle and whatever other like bio info that you have that I guess you choose to put in, obviously, but it's Steam's decision to not make those things also private by default. So it's very interesting. Even Sergey himself seems very confused about why they're doing it. He's not really 100% clear about what their justification is. He doesn't feel like they did it to close SteamSpy, because he says like there are much more direct ways that they could have gone about doing that. But that's not really the case here. So it's just a very confusing situation, given the amount of variables and the fact that also Valve and Steam don't really explain their decisions ever, which you know they don't have to. So fuck it. Yeah, it's confusing.
Maybe it's a multi-step strategy. Maybe they're going to roll out more privacy changes soon, and this is only the first part.
Yeah, possible. Mm-hmm.
I'd rather a company err on the side of like nobody can see anything and then opt in as you feel you would like to. So like I'm losing SteamSpy is whatever for me. Like I don't really care.
Yeah.
I think that it's a positive step to limit the dissemination of information on Steam's end, especially when you have like, I don't know, maybe like 500 million users or something like that at this point.
Jeez.
And maybe it's, I don't know. I always felt for indie developers to some extent, like for AAA, I don't really care about SteamSpy. It's good that you can get market research or could get market research for free from SteamSpy, but I also felt bad when you're like, hey, this dude's like game that he made himself. We know how much money he made roughly.
Yeah, it's a little weird, isn't it? And
like, way to go, loser. You spent 2 years making this game and you made like $4,000 off it.
Everybody knows.
It's a failure.
But on the flip side, like we said earlier, having that information for indie devs at the very least, even if it's not exact information and it's all just very ballpark, a lot of indie devs can dive in and look at a genre, I guess, and be this genre is maybe a good idea right now, or this genre is a terrible idea.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I imagine SteamSpy was probably used a little more frequently by developers than by gamers. I mean, like, obviously, again, like people like us use it because we're a very specialized group. But yeah, I think it was definitely a developer first resource for the majority of it.
And it's the same thing, like, you know, I don't think Valve, it's not even, I don't think, like, it's a literal statement. Valve has no obligation to SteamSpy.
Yeah.
Like, to keep it around. Like, that's the danger of building. It's the same thing goes for us, really.
Oh yeah.
In that we've built our platforms on other people's work, more or less. So,
yeah, exactly.
Valve has no obligation to SteamSpy to, like, release that data publicly. If you base your side gig on something that may not be available forever, you know that it's a risk. I'm not saying it's not a victim blaming sort of thing, but like you don't have access to the primary data to begin with. So
he seems to sort of hold that attitude too.
I mean,
he's a very reasonable dude. Like throughout the whole thing, he even seems like he just sort of expected this to be the case one day and was ready for it. So yeah, he's all set. So SteamSpy no longer available. We'll see whether or not an alternative pops up. He says he's probably going to shut down the Patreon for it as well. So if you were curious about that, likely going to be happening. And yeah, see if he finds an alternative, but it didn't really sound like that was going to be the case. So let's talk about Minit, shall we? Minit, a new adventure. Okay, so I like the genre here is very confusing because I don't know if I've ever played a game that does you only have 60 seconds to play and then you die sort of thing like that. Like, what's the best comparison?
It's an adventure RPG with that twist attached to it.
Okay, so yeah, the genre I suppose is not really impacted by that.
It's like Zelda plus Half Minute Hero.
Yeah,
basically.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I like that. It's got a pixel art style. Is also all black and white, which is very interesting as well. It certainly makes it stand out. And kind of just feels like an old, it feels a little Undertale, honestly. It's got that bit of vibe to it. And it's really, really good. I certainly enjoyed it. I think the mechanics are absolutely what carry it. And it's definitely that 60-second timer that has a lot of the charm, contains a lot of the appeal to the game because pretty much everything is centered around that, as you might imagine. You know, like you've got such a limitation imposed, you pretty much have to design around that limitation. Otherwise, you're going to be screwing yourself over in a lot of circumstances. So it's very evident that like there's sort of a pattern that you're supposed to follow early on, where you get like a minute to go find the sword, and then you get a minute to go to get to point A, and then point A leads you to point B, et cetera, and you're doing like this kind of handheld guide. But then it starts to open up a little bit and starts to show you like, okay, so once you've gotten out of the main area, you can then find new homes, and you can start at these new homes and start your timer from a different location. And that opens up a whole bunch of different options too. So that's like, it began to branch out that way and started to impress me a little bit more and a little bit more. And it's not huge, like it's not really overwhelming. In fact, it's relatively short. You can complete the whole thing in probably like, I want to say 2 hours, maybe not even that. So it's not all that grand in scope, but what it is really enjoyable. I had a good time with it. What do you guys think? Glowing praise across the board. It's lovely.
It was very good.
Here's my impression of Minit. I watched Ryan play it a little bit.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Here's my question, Minit, from watching someone play, because the idea looks really cool.
Yeah.
But can you auto respawn, or do you have to wait
Yeah.
to die? Okay, you actually
You can auto respawn.
Okay, cool. That makes the game
do that a lot,
much
too.
more appealing, because when Ryan, not for nothing, Ryan, but when I was watching your Let's Look At, you were waiting to die, and I'm like, that does seem tedious.
It's like
Yeah.
what actually happened is that at the end of that video, no offense taken,
I didn't
I
watch
found,
it to the end.
I found a like a tooltip that was like, hey, press B to or press whatever to
Okay.
respawn, and I was like, finally, because I was complaining about like the whole video about not being able to do it, and then finally at some point I hit the tooltip and was like, okay, now I can respawn and I feel better about it.
How
Game
long
has
do
opened
you,
up.
how long does he think the game is? Is there any like ideas, like a short game, or is it like a
Yes.
good 10 to 20 hour game?
No,
No, it's not. I
Okay.
finished everything there is to do in the main part of it. It was about 3.5, 4 hours
Oh
long.
wow, okay. That's not terrible.
There's
but-
more to do after it's over, though, if you care to. I haven't done that bit yet.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a
interesting.
new game plus that I am actually almost curious to go back and check out, because I think
Yeah.
very likely made it even more interesting the
There's-
second time around.
There's another mode, too, beyond that, but I don't want to spoil it.
Ooh,
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
The,
there's-
the art style is simple but adorable.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminds me Game Boy-y a little bit, a little
Yeah,
Game Boy-esque.
yeah, extremely so.
Yeah.
Certainly from that era.
Like Link's Awakening, kind of, but like inverted is kind of what I got from it. It's
think
really charming, too, and good music.
Yeah, it's like really smartly designed. It's a
Mm-hmm.
gimmick that is not just like completely superficial. Like it totally changes the way you play the game. Even in Half Minute Hero, there was a gimmick that is like, you know, you only have 30 seconds or whatever, I
Yeah.
think, to beat each level. But it was basically like 30 seconds and it was RPG trappings. You know, it's like there you fight like 10 battles in 30 seconds and you can turn back time a little bit. And it was very conventional. Whereas this is like the whole game is designed more around that 60-second time limit. So you have like these little adventures that happen throughout it. And you're like, I think it's cool the way the game builds on itself. The fact that there's object permanence. So whatever you pick up as a tool, you can bring with you later in the game. And like smart puzzle design, like there's one in like the desert area, there's a maze that you can go through, but they make it abundantly clear that you just can't make it through until you get a specific item. And I think that's smart puzzle design, instead of having it be like, well, you were like 1 second away from making it. So if you just try over and over and do it completely optimally, you might have a chance. So yeah, the only thing I will say is that like it tickles like the game design part of my brain, but I don't find it moment to moment satisfying to play. But over the course of the video that I did, I was like, I'm having a better time. And then I got into some actual puzzles that were reasonably complex, considering you only have 60 seconds with which to actually like iterate on them. And I was starting to come around to it a little bit more. But for the first like little bit of the game, I was like, I get it. It's self-aware. It's cute. It's got a nifty little design principle, but I didn't find the moment-to-moment mechanic satisfaction.
Do you think it would make it's kind of a weird question, but do you think it'd make an interesting game to watch somebody speedrun? Is it speedrunnable? Or is
Yeah, I
it
think
pretty hard to like do that?
No, I think you could speedrun this. It'd just
Maybe.
be very linear.
Would be extremely mechanically about optimizing, not so much that it's like that hard to route or anything.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, it's not.
Yeah, I
really
think it would be
linear.
kind of bland actually to
Yeah,
watch
it'd be pretty
speedrunners.
boring. Yeah. Like you can is the like the
Yeah, of
answer. To
course.
this. Yes, you could obviously, but I don't think it would really be all that entertaining.
Yeah, because when I was watching, I was watching Ryan playing, and my mind was like, oh, I wonder if a speedrunner could do X, Y, and Z in under 60 seconds, and how fast they could get through like
yeah,
huge
not
chunks
really,
of the
that's
game.
not really
but-
like the idea. I don't think it's more focused on like the gimmick of the 60-second timer and then like the expansion upon that and its application in different ways.
If it turns out there's tricks, like if there's ways to clip through stuff, then it could probably be an interesting speed run. I just
Yeah,
haven't looked
so
into if there is that.
You're just like moving around. Like it's
Yeah.
not. There's nothing really impressive about moving in the game, which I feel is like important for a speedrunning game. You gotta like show that you're mechanically sound. But yeah. Anyway, the idea here though, like obviously that's the focal point. That's sort of what I want to talk about a little bit more, the idea of that 60-second timer. Because Nick, you brought up like something really interesting to me too. I think it was like a week ago or so in our chat about like wanting to come up with an idea that's like a game that you can only play 10 minutes a day or something like that. And then
Yeah.
Community has to come together and try to figure out what to do in that 10 minutes to progress the most optimized way. And like something like that's interesting to me. And that seems like one of those crazy ideas that might actually come out of the woodwork.
Well, there's two sides to it. On one hand, it could be really bad if it doesn't pick up a significant community or audience. But I was imagining something like, and just picture a sort of an adventure RPG like a Dark Souls or something, where everybody gets their 10 minutes every day and then the clock resets.
Yeah.
So you'd have people piggybacking off of each other's gameplay because they'd all be uploading their footage and streaming it and stuff. So people be watching what everybody's doing and then try and use that information to use it in a different way and try and go further. And if the game was substantially complicated, that could actually be enough of a hindrance that it keeps people from just finding the optimal route immediately. Although, you know, probably it would be sorted out in like 3 days because that's usually how those types of things go.
Yeah, like, and that makes me think too, like just trying to even extrapolate it further. I mean, obviously there's games like 10 Second Ninja where you have the 10-second timer to complete the platforming stage that's all super fast. But like, how many different ways can we really do that? Can we play a game that you literally can only play for a total of 2 hours? It's a mystery game, and if you don't figure it out, the game never lets you boot it up again, and you just have to live with the fact that you couldn't solve the mystery.
Like,
see, it's also just really annoying, though. Is the other.
It could be done right, but isn't there like that?
Yeah, there was an
the Flock or
asymmetrical horror
something?
game that did that kind of a thing, and then it dematerialized, and people were not thrilled with that solution. I think it was called The Flock, actually.
The Flock is an asymmetrical multiplayer thriller. Reviews, 39% of the 141 reviews for this game are positive.
Oh, that's a few.
It's more than 30%.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just it's interesting to consider.
Wasn't there like a game that was being made by? Oh, I got an email from them about PAX. They're working on something totally different now. Robot Loves Kitty.
Yeah, they were doing that game show, like Running Man sort of thing, where you choose the game chooses somebody from the audience to be like the hero, and then once you have like your one time being the hero, you don't get to be the hero ever again. But I think they scrapped it.
I was saying, I'm pretty sure that got scrapped, but there was a similar idea where like, you know, limited play time, kind of thing. Yeah,
it's always going to be a dangerous idea. I mean, like when you even just proposing it that way, we're going to intentionally limit the amount of time players can play the game. No, you're not.
I think conceptually it's super cool, but in practice, I do think that if you have a choice between two games and one of them is like, hey, you might be like the star of this game one time, you're like, maybe I'll just buy like Far Cry.
I can be the star for 40 hours.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough sell, absolutely. I think something like Minit is absolutely in that happy middle area where it's not really taking anything away from you, but it is imposing that challenge based on that concept.
I mean, even if I might be the most negative on Minit out of the three of us who played it, but I still really liked it. I liked it a lot more by the end. I finished the end of the video than I did at the start of the video, and I already liked it decently when I started the video to begin with. So, considering I think it's like $10, and it's got a totally unique design quirk that is not just a gimmick, like it actually informs the gameplay. I think it's neat. If you like adventure games, I think you might even love Minit. What I'm reading of reviews, some people are like, it's like decent, and that's me. And some people are like, this is like a charming subversion of the genre that's like maybe going to be one of the better games of the year.
But if the heaviest criticism is like, it's decent, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
It's not really replayable is the other thing. Like beyond the extra modes that unlock, I don't see myself going back to it. If there was more to it, I would certainly play more, but it's kind of done for me now.
But it's only $10, which is actually like super cheap, and I think it's a good price for like a couple hours of game. You pay more for a movie, so.
I think a lot of our audience is certainly interested in experiences like this, so this is one I can very comfortably recommend to y'all lot if you like these quirky little indies. And it's a Devolver title, so it's got a little bit of a seal of approval there already. But yeah, $10 for Minit. It's on Steam. It's new. There you go.
Sweet
stuff. Let's talk about Jalopy, Mathis. Would you explain that to me?
So Jalopy is a game that has been in early access for at least a couple of years, I think. And I didn't touch it. It looked interesting to me, but it just came out of early access into 1.0 last week. And the best way I can describe Jalopy, kind of like in a couple of words, is a relaxing Euro Truck Simulator meets roguelike in a weird way.
Sure.
So the idea is you wake up one day and your uncle wants you to drive him to a different country across like multiple borders, and your only car is this beat down like a 6000 or something. It's like a shitty old car that barely works. And the goal of it is to get your uncle there, and all the while you need to repair your car, replace tires, get better engines, better car parts. And so the way it works is when you sit in a car, you pull out your map, and in an FTL-like fashion, you have 3 routes to choose from. And each one of those routes will have some good stuff and some bad stuff. So a route might be 100 meters or whatever less than Route 1, but it has rain and potholes, where the first one might be longer, but you're getting sun, and there will be a gas station along the way where you can spend some money. And in that gas station, you can buy repair tools, you can buy better tires, and as you complete each route, you come to a small town at the very end, and that town has a place where you can upgrade your car, where you can buy a better engine that will hit its top speed faster, have a higher top speed. You can buy better like air filters and better carburetors and all the stuff that makes your car go further and last longer, until eventually it will break down and you get sent back all the way to the beginning. But all those parts in your car stay in your car, so when you get sent all the way back, now you all of a sudden have a better engine, a better carburetor, and then you try and get further and further and further until you beat the game. It is the moment-to-moment gameplay of Jalopy is slow, and that's something you're either going to love or hate. It's very relaxing.
That's the Euro Truck Sim aspect
Yes.
of it. Is that there's a lot of just driving around that isn't really all that engaging.
Yeah, there's a lot of driving around. On the routes, there are little diversions you can go down sometimes. There's like a little dirt road you could drive down and see what's down there. There'll be boxes on the side of the road that you can open, and they'll have like either cigarettes or sausages and stuff that you would sell for money at the nearest store to buy better things. So there's little things along the way that help spice it up a little bit, but it's all about driving and like trying not to hit like piles of dirt or a pothole because your tire will pop. And then the kind of what do you call it? Like minutia of gameplay kicks in, where you need to pull over, put on your hazard lights so cars go around you, take out your jack, lift your car, undo your tire. Hopefully you brought a spare, put the spare on, screw that in, lower your car, like all those little things. If you like that, like I do, because I find it kind of relaxing and enjoyable, you're going to love it. If you don't, then you're going to find this game really, really boring.
Mm-hmm. The biggest point of praise I have for it right out of the gate is I think I know how to build a car now from scratch.
From scratch.
To a junkyard. I can get all the pieces together and be like, okay, hey, we can make this thing run. Let's do it. Because I think it actually does pretty, like, I obviously don't know for sure whether or not this is actually, like, what it tells you is whether or not, okay, let me rephrase that. I don't know if what they're telling you is the actual way a car works, right? I don't know whether or not the instructions they provide you in the game of how to put together the engine and the carburetor and the air filter and all that shit. I don't know if that's actually how it works, but I felt a lot smarter about automobiles after having done so. Now, like, I think I actually have a pretty general understanding of the fact that when you turn the key, it sparks ignition pistons, which all explode from the battery power, and then the carburetor takes air through the filter from the engine, and that causes explosions continuously, and then the car runs. And I was like, I didn't know that. Wow, cool. Now I know that. So good job, Jalopy. You taught me something. That's impressive.
There's some fun like decisions the game makes you make as well. It's not like super hard decisions, but the idea of like, all right, well, you made it through the first leg of your trip. Your car's like smoking. You don't have a lot of money to repair it. But when you're looking at your map, you're like, okay, I know if I take this route, there's going to be a junkyard along the way. And usually a junkyard, you can rip out the parts that you have and replace them with the base parts, but they're free. And you kind of have to scavenge the junkyard for them. You're like, all right, well, this engine was better than the base engine, but it's busted and I don't have any money to repair it. I guess I'll put a stock engine in and try and go a little further. And you can upgrade your car along the way, too. So you can, like, install tool shelves so you're not packing your trunk with, like, all the necessary repair tools because there's only a limited amount of space.
Entire replacement engine back there. Because
which eats up a ton of space. Yeah,
it's exactly like while you're doing that too. Like it sort of reinforces the teaching of the actual mechanics because you are taking parts out and having to replace them and figure, okay, why is this one not connecting here? I got to move this over here and then fix that. So like, there's all that little minutia, like you said, that is, it's engaging in a weird way. It's it's satisfying to have so much control over each element of the car while you're within it too. Like this game I think it did a really good job of like okay, first of all, with keyboard and mouse, they did a really good job of this, because I tried playing with the controller. It's not recommended. But with keyboard and mouse, it's very satisfying because you can, like, you've got pretty damn solid control, and they built this juggling mechanism into it where you can hold 3 items at once and then just swap between them all using the 1 and 2 keys on your keyboard. And that's super convenient and easy. It makes it really simple to juggle a bunch of different tasks at once. It's very intuitive. And it's just sort of like immediately you're like, okay, so I can hold these 3 things. I got to sort this out. I got to put the jack down. I got to get this tire. So like it's all the gameplay is smooth and satisfying for what it is, which is surprising to say, right? Because
I was actually going to say it's like
game it is.
It's oddly satisfying to fix up your car and like make it run better. I'm curious because Nick, you played, but you only played in the early access phase, right?
Yeah, I was like maybe I don't know, August or something. It wasn't terribly far away from release, but it had a few bugs and glitches. And I was curious to ask you guys, did they make the trunk item management less annoying? Because I kept trying to put items in, and they'd have to be in a certain order for them to be registered as to go into the trunk. So if something isn't in the right spot, it'll just be like, no, you can't put that there, even though there's tons of room for it.
That still exists, and like the way to get around it is to buy the upgrade for your car where there's a tool shelf that you can put your tools, so it frees up space in your trunk, and you don't have to worry about weird placements anymore.
I wanted it to be like Gold Rush, where you just have the bed of your truck and you just like
hurl things into it
as you can, and as long as the back will close, then it'll be good to go.
No, that management is still there, but I think it's meant to be annoying so that you want to buy that upgrade. Right. I've run into a couple of bugs, however, in the game. They're minor and they're not game breaking. Well, specifically, like one of the more annoying things is the uncle. When he wants to get back in the car, whether after like a break or whatever, his pathfinding, if you bump into him with the car accidentally, can get immediately all messed up. I've had him walking in circles forever, and I'm just like, all right, well now I gotta like hit him with my car so he like jostles free. Exactly. Early on, one of my first runs, I went down a dirt road to explore, but my car didn't have the horsepower to get out of the dirt road or back up from the dirt road, so I was stuck on the dirt road. I was like, well, I gotta restart. And there was
it was a little off-putting, to be honest, the first time that I didn't really fully comprehend, I guess, what the game was when I began, because I started out and I put the car together and then it's like, okay, we're off. And then first of all, when I tried to drive, the keyboard wasn't working and I realized I had to unplug my controller to be able to actually drive. And then once I got past that point, I was like, okay, cool. So we're just driving. We're just going to drive for a really long time. It's like Euro Truck Sim, like you said. And then I ran out of gas, and I just was like, "Oh, what? I'm out of gas. What do I do? I'm just in the middle of the road, in the middle of fucking nowhere, nothing around me, and I'm like, this is the game.
I'm out of gas.
I lost. Is this? And then cars start showing up and like parking a honk behind me, like, God, get out of the way. I don't know what to do. They didn't give me gas, so I was like, what the fuck? And I realized, oh, there's a return to home button. Oh, okay. So this is the game.
It's like, get a little farther every time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I'm learning the hard way. That was even an achievement, actually, is a rite of passage.
Yep.
Running out of fuel. So
I got something like that when I was driving. My car was still running. There was smoke billowing from the engines. My whole windshield was cracked and covered in mud. I was out of cleaning fluid, and all of my tires were flat. So I was like just squealing down the road as you just hear the thunk, 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 thunk of flat tires all the way down. I'm like, I'm gonna make it to the next checkpoint, motherfucker. I didn't make it to the next checkpoint. I swerved and hit a tree, and I was like, well, I'm out. I tried.
Even when your car works really well, the driving felt a little bit swervy to me, but maybe it's just supposed to.
Yeah, I guess the car is not going to handle the best, right? So it certainly makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's an old shitty car. That's kind of the point.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that, like, even right in the beginning, every once in a while, you trying to open your uncle's door doesn't actually work. Like, you click on the door and it makes the noise, but it jams. So you have to, like, click on it a couple times till it opens. And, like, when you start the car, it like, it struggles to start.
It
sometimes.
doesn't do it sometimes.
You're like, oh Jesus, but it adds to it, and I really like that because as you're upgrading your car and you're getting better parts in your engine, and it's starting quicker and starting faster, and your top speed increases and stuff. That feeling of progress is there. It's a relaxing, and I hesitate to use the term, but it is a relaxing roguelike in a lot of ways because you're doing that. There's a little bit of randomness as to what you're gonna get. There's the permanent upgrades that you get as you go along. It's fun. It's surprisingly enjoyable.
Yeah, like, and it's still a little janky. Like, unfortunately, there are still some glitches I ran into, and like it. I also don't like that they make you choose the language at the start every single time.
Every single time.
I have no idea why the fuck that's a thing, but that's such a minute thing. It doesn't even really matter. And yeah, exactly. Like you just said, like, I can't believe how much I enjoyed it. I think I'm going to go back and play it again because I was like, this is it's a weirdly satisfying experience. And I think there's a lot of attention paid to detail too. There's a lot of love put into just like little bits and pieces in the scenario and the setting. And like, it just feels like a game of passion, which is always nice to see too. And you can definitely tell in this one. So it's cool. I was surprised exactly with how much I enjoyed this. It's Jalopy, out of early access on Steam now. You can get it for $15. Cool?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Good stuff. Let's talk about what we've been playing for the past couple weeks then, shall we? We'll wrap this here epper up. Mathis.
Yeah, I've been playing
BattleTech this week, right?
Yeah, I got to mess with BattleTech a little bit. A few hours into it so far. I'll hopefully be putting more into it in the next couple of days, but it's really fucking good is what I'll say so far. It is, if you like XCOM, I think you're gonna love BattleTech. It's a lot deeper than XCOM in that, and it's surprisingly a lot deeper than XCOM. Like there's a lot going on the surface level. So the moment-to-moment gameplay of being on the field is enjoyable. It's not like old XCOM where you're managing like time units and all that stuff. The depth from this comes from the mechs themselves, because the mechs have like 6 different body parts they can be hit on, and your positioning is very, very, very important. So if you're on the side of a mech and you just unload on the right side of the enemy, his whole armor could be shredded, and then like the innards of the right arm could be exposed, taking extra damage. You could blow off the right arm completely, and now all of a sudden he doesn't have his laser cannon and his right shoulder missiles and stuff because you took care of it. Or you could get a lucky shot where you hit them dead on and you kill the pilot in the mech. Now the mech is there and he's deactivated, which means at the end of the mission you can scrap that entire mech and take it for yourself, and then use it and strip it for parts, or you can man it yourself and repair it. It also has that element of each pilot is an individual and they all level up. So all your mech pilots have talent trees that can go up, and you can have one mech pilot who's really good at being a sniper because that's how you spec them, and one who's really good at being a tank because that's how you spec them. You can name your pilots. They can die. You can recruit different ones on different planets. The whole game kind of also works around this idea that you're a mercenary group. So you are constantly looking for jobs in the galaxy so that you can make it to the next week, and you can repair your mechs and pay your pilots and, be a profitable mercenary group in this galaxy that has a main storyline that you can follow, but also has a bunch of side paths and freedom to just go from planet to planet and just be a merc group all the way through.
How much freedom do you really have there? Is it like
a lot.
You can literally do whatever you want?
You can literally hit any star system along the way, and going from like one star system to the next, there will be a time that like a week or two to travel there, and in that time you can set up like what you want repaired, who you want to heal, how much money you want to spend.
A little bit of management stuff.
There's a lot of management stuff in this game, lot of it. But it's all in that as well. There's also random story bits that can happen during your travels, like your crew could fight with one another, and you have to make decisions, and there's role play elements where you have to decide what's going to go on. All while on the main top of the surface is BattleTech lore, which is like sci-fi Game of Thrones in space, royal houses fighting for territory control and all this other stuff, and you have a say over how it goes depending on the jobs you take and whose side you go along with. There's a lot going on in BattleTech, and it's a lot of fun for somebody who enjoys it, but it means like if you're going to do a series on it, for instance, each episode is probably going to be at least an hour.
Good luck.
I'm like,
It's XCOM.
I'm definitely gonna play it. I guess I'll take it like as it comes. I'll check it out for a couple hours and see if it fits.
Yeah.
Like, I'm itching for a game like this ever since I stopped playing Into the Breach. But and I love XCOM, at least the new one with the edges rounded off, so normal people can actually beat it. But I'm not fully convinced because I don't care about like the mech aesthetic. But we'll see. It looks cool.
Yeah,
I trust it.
I mean, it's it's Harebrained Schemes, so they did the Shadowrun stuff, and they did Necropolis as well, which didn't go over too well. But they also have the original creators of the '80s tabletop game working with them as well. So they kind of have everybody there that needs to make a good BattleTech turn-based game, and I love it. And I'm excited. Like the first 30 minutes, you're making a character and you're choosing your character's history, which will have an impact on certain decisions going forward. And there's just a lot. There's just a lot going on in this game that I didn't expect there to be, and it's really enjoyable. So
nice. I'm glad. Like you were very excited about this, so I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying it. That's good. Good.
I love it.
Nick, what you been playing?
I had a bit of an odd week for games. After Minit, the next thing I ended up playing was I actually played like 8 to 10 hours of Minecraft.
Okay.
I opened up a server for my subscribers, and we just started building a town, and then I just did that for like an entire day.
Nice.
Very satisfying and therapeutic, as Minecraft always is, but it's not really anything new to talk about.
Yeah.
I also, on a whim, started a new run of Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. Is that the name of it? SOTFS. I remember the acronym. I don't remember the words of the acronym. So I did like a divine character for that, and then I was just trying to rush through it as fast as possible because I'd never played the DLC. So I thought maybe that could be an opportunity. Of course, it takes like 6 to 8 hours to get to the DLC areas, so I didn't get to any of those yet.
Yeah.
But it was fun bringing people into the game and thrashing on the bosses that gave me a pain in the ass the first time, because the only other time I played the game was on 360, and it was when it was not released yet, so there was never an opportunity to summon people.
This is your revenge tour.
It kind of is.
The revenge tour. I like it.
I just said to Chad, I was like, get me to the most powerful weapon that exists early game. So like, okay, I guess I'm going for that flame sword. Then just ran right to it. I made it like an hour without dying, so I was pretty proud of it, except for I fell in a hole, but I don't consider that.
That's a good first way to die, at least.
Yeah. So yeah, that was pretty much my whole week. I didn't play a ton of games this week. I had a lot of personal stuff going on. So,
Ryan, what have you been up to?
Played Caden on last Thursday. Caden and I played this game called Late Shift, which is basically like Heavy Rain, except it's much shorter, and it's completely FMV. So it's actually like a movie, and it doesn't even have quick time events. It's just like choices, and that was like pretty not great, but a little. If you're into that sort of thing, it's like not horrible.
You should play if you're looking for something like that. Play The Bunker, man.
The Bunker.
Yeah, it's short, couple hours. It took me 6 episodes. It's an FMV style game, live action with quick time events and choices.
Did you talked about this on the show, didn't you?
I did. I talked about it when I played it.
Oh yeah, I remember.
It's really good. It is really good. I liked it a lot.
I might consider. I really want to like. This is not. I mean, it has a 57 on Metacritic, so I'm not trying to insult you or anything.
I enjoyed it. I hear you. It's
all
definitely
I'm
not for
saying
everybody.
is, I think like I want to check out the new game from Sam Barlow called War Games. I think that's like the next FMV style. It's called War Games. Reviews are mixed, 67% right now. So those in glass houses, et cetera, et cetera. But I kind of want to peep that. But I've gotten back into off-camera playing Slay the Spire because that game is actually like the best game that's been released in the past 8 months or so.
Still playing it makes me want to just fucking play it.
It's extremely great and also very good.
It still has like. Sorry, go ahead.
It has the best dailies of any roguelite in history. Like it's the only game where I want to play the dailies instead of exclusively playing them to like tick achievements off. And it's got a great level of difficulty. Like the normal game is really well balanced. The daily runs are easier but substantially crazier. So like each daily run is like its own little puzzle. I hate to say it, but it's like a seam in Isaac where you're like, here's where you can exploit the mechanics and start to build something that's just broken. And then Ascension mode is like extremely difficult. I think Ascension mode is like actually kind of bad, but I digress. Because I don't want to get too inside baseball with Slay the Spire, but I'm doing these dang Ascension modes off camera, and the only way that I can find a win with the Silent is to always re-roll the starting relic. And the only way, so it's like an Eden run, is like you're looking to get an amazing starting item, but if you don't get it, you have to get all the way up to the first boss and then probably die and then come back, and then you get the chance to re-roll it again. Otherwise, you start with this vanilla trash deck. But anyway.
Dude, that's the thing too, the vanilla trash deck. That was the other point I wanted to make, is it does still kind of have that issue that I have with several roguelites right now, where they don't really do a lot to spice up the early game, and it just sort of becomes a grind. Like
that's why dailies are so much better.
Yeah, exactly. Like dailies fix that, obviously. But there was another thing too with the specific daily challenge that I played a few days ago, where they let you draft. I don't know if they let you do that multiple times yet, but that's a game mode, dude. They absolutely need to just put that in as a game mode for Slay the Spire, where you can just draft your own custom deck at the start and just play with that, because that would be so fun.
I agree. My thing with Slay the Spire right now is the dailies, if they have a problem, it's that they tend to be substantially easier than the default game or Ascension. But like, that's what makes them fun. Because when you draft, you're like, it's like drafting a Magic deck, kind of, where you're like, first you take like the best card available, and then you start to, card 4 or something, you get a chance to enable a synergy, but if you take it, then you might not get a chance to enable it with the rest of your cards. You might be in like a terrible position. But like the other one that shows up all the time is Insanity, where you start with a 50 card deck of random cards. And I think it says something about the design of the game that 50 random cards is always, maybe not literally always, but like 98% of the time, it's better than your starting deck. A deck constructed by just rolling the dice 50 times ends up being better than the trash you start with by default.
Well, because like there's so many synergies that just come as a result of having so many cards. So like you end up playing through a whole bunch of shit every turn. But yeah, it's interesting.
So that game is like incredible.
Yeah.
Actually extremely good. What else have I been playing? I've been playing a little, like with the Team Unity and a little off camera. I've been playing a little Fortnite. I like playing like 2 runs of that a day. It seems like an enjoyable time.
When did your opinion like shift so hard from hating Fortnite to loving Fortnite? Where did that happen? What changed your mind? Because when we first talked about Fortnite, I was like, I like it. It's enjoyable. You're like, fuck it. It's not PUBG.
PUBG's second map was trash, and then. Like, nobody wants to play their second map. Then when they came out in 1.0, it was the same game. And then it's like 6 months after it came out in 1.0, and it's still pretty much the same.
And it added vaulting.
They've added vaulting. They've added, like, war mode, which looks kind of okay. And then...
that's the deathmatch one, right? Is the
one? With, like, a little respawn in it as well. And then they added Savage, or they're testing, like, the third map. And that looks cool, but it's like, I don't know. The fact that Fortnite... It's won me over based on the fact that they have updates like 2 times a week. Like you get,
they're on top of it.
There's a
Run
tease.
By a professional studio.
Every like Tuesday you get a tease, and then on Friday it exists, or on Thursday it exists. So like the fact that there's a constant injection of new content keeps it fresh. Yeah, that's the honest answer there.
It really is telling, like. Now that we've had so much time to digest it and analyze it, it really is telling just how much of a difference it makes when a AAA team gets behind something that could explode in popularity like that. Like how well they were able to capitalize on it versus how well PUBG Corp was able to capitalize on it. Because not only, like you said, have they been so consistent and steady with these updates and keeping people interested in the game week to week, but they're also porting to other platforms simultaneously and addressing issues in the meanwhile. Like, there's no big problems with Fortnite apart from when the servers go down anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like, people aren't really even complaining about the game. People complained about PUBG forever, and it was just surviving because it was the only game offering that experience.
I still think there's going to be, I hope, a AAA publisher or somebody with a budget and a proper team tackles the realistic battle royale, because PUBG is still the only one that's quote unquote realistic. I would love to see somebody come out with an optimized, fun, not buggy as hell, more simulation.
What is the extreme early access?
Radical Heights. Yeah.
Radical Heights.
So I literally downloaded that as the show was going on, and I watched Corey play. He's the only person on my friends list that has like more than 15 minutes in the game, and he has 10 hours, and he keeps saying.
Wow.
he keeps saying it's fun, and then I watch him play it on his stream, and I'm like, no offense, Boss Key, but it looks like garbage.
It's like it could not
It
be
looks-
any earlier in development.
It
and
looks
be a
really
playable
bad,
thing. Yeah.
but I'm like, I really like the Battle Royale format, so I'm willing to try it out. I feel like I'm in that space that everybody, well, I won't speak for everybody, but that a lot of people were in like 2012 or 2013, where people were like, you know, Minecraft's pretty good. I'll play anything that has survival and crafting elements. It's pretty much like what the games industry was like for like 2 years. And that's where I'm like with Battle Royales right now. I'm like, I'll try essentially anything made into a Battle Royale. Play like 3 hours of Darwin Project. Kind of sucks. But like I played it and I was like, you know, you can get hype when you win.
Yeah.
I'm invested in the genre, really, is where I'm at right now. So that's why I'm playing a little Fortnite.
I'm eager to
It's
see.
also like, it's really nice to play. The reason I like Battle Royales is the same reason I like playing Isaac Spelunky, Slay the Spire.
different every run.
It's different every run.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you play it for an hour, you don't have like if I was to start playing, like God of War is coming out soon. You play the first hour of God of War, you got like 39 more hours of God of War. The Battle Royale is like you're in, you're out, frictionless, sort of like almost mobile-like experience. So I think that's what appeals to me out of those.
In a year, I'm eager to see what, or maybe even two, what of the many battle royale games we get rise to the top and become the dominant 2 or 3. Because if you look at it, in MOBAs, League and Dota rose to the top. And you have the Overwatch, the hero shooter, Overwatch, Paladins.
Yeah.
I would consider number 2 probably. And now we have this where everybody's fighting for dominance, and Fortnite is clearly number 1. I'd be curious to see if PUBG really maintains its number 2 kind of status, or if something comes around and knocks it off its throne. Where we're going to be sitting in a year or two.
I think like
not gonna stick around.
I don't think so either, but who knows?
I think it has enough inertia to hang out for like a long time. It's still the most played game on Steam.
On Steam, sure.
But they really they screwed it by not knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
To be honest, like
Their PR was awful.
That's the thing is like the main reason that Fortnite is popular, apart from the fact that it's free, is the fact that Epic updates it on the regular and actually implements new content on the regular. And it's so easy to be cynical about PUBG. I mean, maybe it's been for a long time, admittedly, but now that there's another developer that's just kind of similarly beating them at their own game,
showing them how it's done.
What's insane about Fortnite is that mode was developed in 2 months.
Yeah.
And they just fucking stepped on PUBG. We're like, yeah, all right, we're here.
There's couple of things I would love to see happen. Either Bluehole gets it more together, and then they make PUBG really good and continuously update it, which is fine.
It's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. The other thing I would like to see is a game that takes the pace of PUBG, but has a competent. It's a little rude, but has a developer like Epic behind it, where they know what they're doing, and they can put new content into it quickly. And when there's problems with the game, it doesn't take them a month to get them out and stuff like that. So I like Fortnite. It's faster, and you can play games much more quickly than you can in PUBG. But I think there's room for semi-realistic.
Yeah, I agree.
2/3 simulation, 1/3 arcade style PUBG game with that sort of gunplay. It just needs I don't know. I feel like it's like the stock market. You need a developer that creates some consumer confidence.
It's weird because every battle royale coming out right now is desperately trying to emulate Fortnite. Everyone is cartoony and fast and silly and has
Radical Heights looks exactly
it
looks like Fortnite on the PS2.
Yeah. It looks ridiculous. I'm curious if Division 2 will have its version of battle royale that they put in Division 1 built in from the ground up, and if they'll expand on it, because I still stand by the Division's battle royale mode was really, really good, but it came at a time where the game was already dead, so it never really took off. But I hope I like the genre, and I do hope we see more.
Yeah. Well, speaking of believing in the genre, I picked up another VR game over the week. And
yeah. I'm excited to hear you say why it's terrible.
Okay, it's not. Hang on. Don't put words in my mouth, because it's not terrible. What I realized is I don't want to play it at all. So I picked up Skyrim VR, the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim VR on the Vive. a few days ago, and I refunded the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim VR on the Vive a few days ago. After about 10 to 15 minutes of trying it out and just really wanting to throw up, I realized this is not an experience I want to have. And let me go into a few caveats before people start to put me up on the cross here. I know a lot of folks are really liking it, and I can see why you are. I can definitely see why you are. What my experience was getting it all on and set up. And I will say kudos to them, because this is one of the very few VR games I booted up that worked the first time I booted it up. I was just in VR. I was like, whoa, wait, hey, it's doing it. So that was good. But then getting into it, you have like this sort of tutorialized section where they just drop you in like this cavern with water and trees and stuff. And it's pretty. It's a nice area that they put you in to just sort of introduce you to the VR version of Skyrim, right? So I'm walking around in that a little while, trying to get attuned to the actual walking, which is done either by the teleportation, which is pretty much the default these days, or they've got touchpad movement where you can walk or run based on where you put your thumb on the touchpad. And it's not terrific, but it's functional, but it's also very disorienting and nauseating. So
I feel like I would vomit immediately.
You will. Yeah, you absolutely will. But I was like, okay, I can maybe get into this. Let's move around. Let's do it. And then I started to, I got to where you pick up a bow and arrow. And that was about 5 to 10 minutes at that point of desperately trying to figure out where I went wrong, because all of a sudden I jumped up on the table and was crouching and could not uncrouch for the life of me, despite whatever button I pushed. I was like, what the fuck? And all this time, of course, as I'm trying to push buttons, I'm like touching the touchpad and moving around and jolting like, fuck, I can't see, I can't figure this out. It's not like a typical gamer problem where you're just like, okay, let's troubleshoot and open up the console and that kind of shit. It's like, I literally can't see what's going on, and I'm being thrown physically around while I'm trying to discover what button works to get me out of the situation. And halfway through that, I began to think to myself, like, do I even want to do this? Do I want to play Skyrim VR? And then after that, I was like, no, I don't have any desire to do this. So that's why primarily I got turned off to it. But I also want to point out a couple of different things about the experience, because I think I like, as short as that time was with it, I think I realized like why I felt that way, because Skyrim's a game from 2011, and I think like that's a game, or that's a point that's been made I think a couple of times even on this show recently, where Skyrim is dated. It's not really all that engaging anymore, and there's a lot that I, even without really even getting into the proper game itself, I was just reminded right away of like, this is not really a fresh experience anymore. And then secondly, like there's just a few things just from the tutorialization of it where I was like, this isn't really the immersive feeling that I wanted to get out of Skyrim VR. I like when I was having it pitched to me, people were saying like, this is the definitive way to play. You can, the archery is incredible. You can hurl spells like this and all this cool stuff, but still just simply moving around, grabbing things is not just a direct hand movement. You have to look at it and push a button and then it'll attach it to your hand, and it's just sort of awkward like that. There's so many little tiny things like that immediately ruin the immersion of VR, and it just sort of sucks me out of the experience completely. So this is still like, I really hesitate to say too much about it, because as you can tell, I didn't play a lot of it, and I really do not have the best base for my opinions of this. But I have watched other people play it. I've seen it, and I've seen like why people like it. And again, I understand why people like it, but this is not the definitive experience. We keep looking for it. This is not it. Skyrim VR is not like, oh my God, you have to get an HTC Vive Pro now to be able to play Skyrim VR because it's the most amazing thing. No, it's not. It's just Skyrim in VR, and it works for what it is. It's just not really worth $60.
It's the whole game of Skyrim, right? It's not just like a tech demo with, okay.
It's the full-fledged thing, and like it's getting good reviews and people are enjoying it. And I'm like, I keep saying that, like I think it's impressive that they've done this, that they have put the entirety of Skyrim in VR, but it's just like not that fun or really.
I don't know if it's quite as impressive as it sounds to me. It's like, well, they figured out a way to overlay the controls in a way that makes sense.
I'm
Those
still
weren't
just
really-
generally impressed by people being able to make VR
Right.
games, so that's probably the basis for that there. But yeah. Anyway,
I think Skyrim is kind of bad.
you said that last week though, so that's not even.
But
that's
it
not
is
like
Well,
bad.
people keep bringing it up.
I don't
So,
understand
like-
how they can keep selling Skyrim at full fucking price and just do something a little different with it every single time, or
It's
just
not
port
a
it.
bad game. Saying Skyrim is a bad game, I think
It is in
disingenuous.
in 2018, Skyrim no longer holds water in terms of
That's
like
true.
and
That
that's
is
where I'm-
absolutely true.
in
yeah.
Like
20
I played it in 2016, I think, and I was like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But
No,
like,
you're right
of
about
it-
that. Like modern standards, it is no longer a good game.
A
Absolutely.
lot of it was based on tech. The tech has aged.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Those types of games are very dependent on that being breathtaking, and once it's not, it's a little less impactful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's weird that Skyrim is dated so much now. That is a very interesting thing to me too. But it absolutely is. It's old news.
Yeah, in 2011, different story. It was it blew your mind in a way. There were still issues with it, but like always having a big open world like that is always like infatuating. And when
Yeah.
it first comes out, fast forward a few years where other open world games have done that but better, you're like, all right, well maybe now it's time to stop trying to shove Skyrim down our throats.
To that point, though, I will say if you love Skyrim, this is probably a great option for you because I bet it'll be thrilling. If you are a Skyrim fanatic and you played it 4 or 5 different times and you want a brand new way to experience it, there you go. This is a good way to do it.
But you said the controls are super awkward.
It's it's just the thing about it is it's not. You can play the game in VR functionally and it's fine. But what I'm saying is I feel it ruins the immersion when you're not physically doing most of the things that you're trying to do. You know what I'm saying?
It just sounded like you got stuck on the table and you couldn't figure out how to get off. So it just sounded like it was convoluted.
I mostly also just attribute to my stupidity,
Yeah.
but that instance was definitely damning for me too. So yeah. But yeah, that was just a bit of an unfortunate experience for me. I'm still looking though, man. I'm still trying to find some good VR stuff.
Would you play Dark Souls in VR?
God no.
I don't think so. I'm like, well, how'd you even do
Block,
that?
blocking stuff with your sword in
I
front of you. That would be
guess
cool. It'd be like Gordon with an adventure game.
Oh yeah, maybe that would work out. I played something similar to that. I think Vanishing Worlds was the name of it.
Yeah, Vanishing World. I messed with that a
You
little
have
bit.
to, if you want a potion, you have to reach onto your virtual belt and then do a drinking motion with your hand.
That's intuitive. That's what we want.
I clapped when I did it.
Yeah, I haven't really been playing much else either. Rocket League got an update that broke everything. That was a bummer.
Oh
What?
no.
Yeah,
What did they break?
Tournaments update was a big downer. People are
Oh.
really disappointed.
Really?
Yeah, it's got a bunch of broken shit. Like the ranks are all messed up completely, and there's been some server issues. And yeah, it's just a mess. But they're fixing it, so whatever. Yeah, that's been what I've been playing this week, and I think that'll pretty much wrap up the show for April 13th, 2018. Thank you very much for joining us.
Wait,
Hold on a
wait.
second. What's up?
Did we ever do Game of the Month for March?
No, oh, you're right. Yeah, good point.
Oh,
Let's do
shit.
that. That
Don't
is
start with me.
Okay.
What came out in March?
Excellent point. Yeah.
I looked during the Jalopy segment because I
Yeah.
didn't play Jalopy.
Okay,
And
okay.
I think, even though I don't think it's a masterpiece, my Game of the Month for March is probably A Way Out.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Kind of by default, but not nearly as much of a default pick as Flint Hook was
Yeah.
11 months ago. It is a fun co-op adventure to play through exactly one time.
I agreed.
Full stop.
That's pretty good.
I didn't
Yeah,
play
no.
any of these, so
Nick.
my
Yeah, I would say mine was easily Vermintide 2.
Okay. Mhm.
That was not even a question, actually. Even if Far Cry was the same month, it would have been Vermintide.
Yeah.
It was this month, right? Far Cry.
March
Yeah, it was
8th,
March
Okay.
2018.
Anyway,
Far Cry 5 was March 28th or something.
Yeah. I'm
Oh,
talking
it was
about
the same.
Vermin.
I thought it was this month for some reason. Anyway,
Yeah.
Vermintide 2, really, really good. I'm very happy to hear that they're doing really well selling it, and I know they're committed to having a lot more content added to it. I assume that means they'll raise the level cap at some point, add more and more stuff. Hopefully that game stays supported for ages, and I want to keep playing it a lot. I really
Yeah.
like it.
I think they just announced they sold over 1 million copies,
Yeah.
which is
Wow,
great.
that's
Nick,
fast.
I
Nick
literally
mentioned
said
that
that.
about 45 minutes ago.
Okay. I forgot.
That got mixed. We talked about like 4 or 5 games selling 1 million copies on today's show too. Sweet. My game of the month has got to be Far Cry 5. I love the hell out of it. I've been a big Far Cry fan since 2 now, I guess, which is nuts. And this one has a bear named Cheeseburger, and that's all I needed. And you throw shovels at people. It's fantastic. It's tons of fun. Tons of fun. I love Far Cry 5. Mathis?
I think I'm gonna go. It's tough. It's between Far Cry 5 and A Way Out for me. They both were really fun. I'll probably go with A Way Out because I'm already done with Far Cry 5. Like I'm done. I'm bored of it. It was really fun for a couple weeks, but A Way Out was one of those get in, play it, experience the whole thing, and now you're done. You don't have to think about it anymore. And it was really fun to riff on it the whole time. So even though it was a good game, that made it a lot more fun.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah,
good stuff. Cool. All right, well there we go. Game of the month for March, fantastic, and we'll
cat time. I heard the door like someone pushed it
so
slowly.
Annoying.
Which guy is it?
segment? It's cat time.
Which cat is it though?
Where's the cat?
Ruka. All right.
Hey, Ruka, come here, buddy. Oh, hey.
There you go. There you go.
Here he goes.
Here goes Ruka.
This is the best segment of the podcast.
I know, yeah, I
we've
love
ever
it.
had.
Hey,
there he is.
Hey, buddy.
It's
All
cat
right.
time.
I heard the door quietly squeak, and I was like, all right, that's got to be a cat pushing his way in.
Yep.
Thanks for watching Roundtable Live, everybody. For today, I will not be here next week. I assume y'all are going to be still running the program, though, so anticipate that. Next week, here on twitch.tv/Roundtable Podcast, which is where you can find and watch the show every single week here on Twitch at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Also, follow us on Twitter at RoundtablePC, and you can support the show financially over on patreon.com/roundtable. And Mathis is going to thank those big-time patrons over there right now.
Yes, I am. Big thanks to Julian Avelsgard, Scrotty119, Ricky Greist, Yakuza 6, The Song Life, good one, Mediocrities, Justin, Jin, Your Month, or even Your Year, but Falco, Smurfette, Cowboy Chemist, Eric Schooley, Stephen Aoki, James Peed, Peter Sunson, Ella Spice, John Kalchik, O Tamaz Games BR, Jakar Sampson, With a Dance Number, Cole Noir, Sahoa, Talks to Wall, Kobe Klein, Greenlight, and Oren Saltzman. And of course, a big thanks to the subscribers that this thing decided to register, but maybe didn't fully register. Captain, Sharpie Guy, Lackned, Tick Tight Toe. Yeah, that works. Morimo, Loim, Ethadir, Miles, Tag125, and Blue W Monkey.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. We really appreciate it. Also, hey, if you're interested, I'm releasing a rap EP tomorrow. So if you like that kind of stuff, come on by. It's going to be twitch.tv/BaerTaffy at 10 a.m. In the morning tomorrow. Should be fun.
Sweet.
Yeah. There we go. That's our show. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll be back. Oh, they'll be back next week, and we'll see you then. Goodbye,
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Later.